Hello bakers! Today we are going to make buttermilk biscuits. So let's get started.
For this recipe, you will need 2 cups all-purpose flour, half a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons baking powder, a quarter teaspoon baking soda, 1/3 cup shortening or butter, and 3/4 cup buttermilk. Or if you don't have buttermilk, you can substitute 1 teaspoon of vinegar and 3/4 cup of milk. Once you get all your ingredients out, preheat your oven to 450 degrees. Now let's make those biscuits.
Next you want to cut in the fat. You can use 1/3 cup of vegetable shortening, which comes in a can like this. Sometimes it comes in sticks like butter, or you can use butter. For this today I'm going to be using shortening because butter is at a premium and shortening is what I have in the cupboard. Then you are simply going to take your pastry blender, if you have one, or a fork if you don't have one, and you are going to cut this fat into the flour. The reason that this is called a pastry blender is that you are blending fat into flour for the purpose of making pastries. What fat does is it coats the strands of, it coats the flour so that liquid can't get to the flour and create gluten. And when we're making a biscuit, we'd like it to be light and fluffy and melt in your mouth, and it won't be if it's tough and chewy because it has too much gluten. So we are making basically a waterproof barrier for part of the flour so that it doesn't develop too much gluten. Again, if you don't have a pastry blender like this, you can simply use a fork and just press it down until it looks like crumbs. It should look like kind of like wet sand. Next thing we want to do is measure out our liquid. We need 3/4 cup of milk, but we also need some sort of acid in this to counteract the baking soda. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure my half a teaspoon of vinegar into my liquid measuring cup. Then pour the milk. Now, if you have buttermilk at home, just use 3/4 cups buttermilk. I never have buttermilk at home, so I simply use the vinegar and milk method. We're gonna make a little well in the center of our flour mixture, pour the milk in, and then gently mix with a fork until everything comes together. You do not want to overmix this because what happens when we overmix dough? We get too much gluten formation, and we don't want that gluten to be too strong. Get as much as you can. I'm kind of pressing with my fork and scraping and turning the dough over, and it's okay if it doesn't come together totally because I'll finish that in the kneading process, which is next. That's it. See that shaggy mess? We are going to turn that into a beautiful flaky crust. So I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my board. You can just use the counter or a cutting board. This is my kitchen table. Turn the dough out onto the flour board. Make sure you get it all. And then we are going to use the burrito fold method, which is, well, I'll show you. Take your hands and lift the front of the dough and fold it 1/3 of the way over, and then turn it and fold the other side over, just like you're folding a burrito. You're gonna do this 3 times. Fold 1/3, 2/3, and press gently. Fold 1/3 and 2/3 and press gently. Every time you do this, you're creating a layer inside of your dough that's going to turn out to be flaky layers when you bake it. They'll just pull apart and be nice and flaky. But again, we do not knead this dough, we simply fold and press. If you knead it like yeast dough, you're going to get too much gluten. So now it's done. I'm going to pat it down into a rectangular shape that's about 1/4 of an inch thick. And I make about 9 biscuits with this. You can cut it out with round biscuit cutter if you like, but I prefer to just use a dough cutter. So what I'm going to do is cut this dough in half down the center, and then I'm going to cut it into thirds, or you could cut it into fourths if you wanted to make 12 or 8 biscuits. This is 6. You can make 9 or 12, just depends on how big you want your biscuits to be. And then I'm going to transfer these to a baking sheet. Biscuits want to be close together, but not touching. And here's why. When they get hot in the oven, they are going to create steam, and that steam is going to create heat around, extra heat around the each biscuit. It's going to help it rise nice and tall. So don't let them stick together, but do put them close enough that they can help each other rise up. And I'm going to put this in the oven for about 11 to 12 minutes at 450 degrees. If you're not ready to bake your biscuits right away, you can cover these with foil or plastic, put them in the freezer, and take them out when you're ready. These babies are golden brown, and they have these delicious flaky layers in them. Remember, when we folded them during the kneading process, we folded in these beautiful layers and they just fall apart. So I'm going to put a little butter on one. I like them hot out of the oven. A little butter, honey or jam. Let's see how they taste. Oh my God. You guys, you really need to make these. They're super easy. You put them alongside some soup or a salad, you've got a complete meal. Enjoy.